where do you own these properties?
Between Broward and Palm Beach counties, the two counties. For now, I'm not opposed to in the future buying something out of the area, but certainly for my first set of units and first portfolio building exercise, I wanted to be able to see and touch those properties. Of course, now that I have a property manager, I can't tell you the last time I've actually seen her or touched them, because I trust my property manager to be taking care of them.
He's mentioned that to me.
Yeah. I don't do a lot of drive-bys, but I did tell him the other day. I said I'd like to set aside a Saturday, a couple hours, and let's go drive by all the units. But yeah, you have to do that now and then. But so yeah, I wanted to have them in the local area. The only issue I'd say with South Florida right now is that prices are high, and so I'm still looking at deals. I'm very open to buying deals, very open to increasing our portfolio. We have cash ready to go, but I haven't found a deal yet. I'm thinking may need to begin looking farther outside of the area until such time as prices come back to being a little more reasonable. But our goal, ultimately, at least what I have in my head, is to get to 100 units. And I'd like to do that, if possible, in the next 5 to 10 years, maybe 10 years at the outset. And then it doesn't mean that I won't own more than 100, but you want to have goals and a number to reach that you reward yourself with. I did that in my career and our business, and bought myself a nice watch when I hit that goal, but that I'd been waiting 10 years to buy. But you really need to set goals for yourself, and that 100 units is really my self-created goal for where I want us to be. That's all going to be passive income. That's going to be a major part of our retirement portfolio. And, I truly believe in the real estate market and the real estate game and investing. And I think multifamily is fantastic. So
I love that. And I agree, obviously, because I own a very similar product to you. And why don't you explain what type of product you've been buying? I'm buying the same thing, but
Sure.
I'll let you speak about it.
I think we're in similar markets. I like workforce housing. I really do. I think the prices are a bit more reasonable. So let's call them Class B minus properties, depending on the area. I don't really go to Class C properties. Those are much more difficult to manage. You'll have much higher vacancy rates and eviction rates. You'll have people beating your properties up significantly more. And I'm also not a fan from an investment perspective of Class A properties, because I think your cap rates and your ROI is going to be significantly lower when you purchase those types of properties. I also think that workforce housing, certainly here in South Florida, is going to remain very, very limited for a long time to come, if not ever. We're more or less out of land, and the little bit of land they do have, they're building high-end homes on just because of the price of real estate here. So I don't know that they're ever going to make any more Class B housing for workforce. And so I just see the value of that continuing to rise, and the rents continuing to rise for the medium term and the long term. So yes, that's what we're looking at.
You and I have talked about this at length as well, right? In the past, and I tend to agree. I think you can't really duplicate the workforce housing product because it's just not cost
Building codes, I think, are the main driver of that.
You cannot build new workforce housing product here in this area for the price that we are paying for existing stuff. And there's just not available land to do it either, at least in the South Palm area, for sure.
Exactly.
So
I think that situation may be different in the greater Orlando area. Maybe you have people moving out to Polk County or to Osceola County, and they have land and they have farms and they're converting, and they can possibly build much more reasonable housing or workforce housing. But that's not really the case here in South Florida. So if we're going to stick to South Florida, depends on what prices do in the next year or 2 years, and if new opportunities arise. If not, we're going to look elsewhere, and that's fine. We're okay with that.
Agreed. And I think elsewhere in the country, you might be able to build more cheaply than down here, because most of the construction here is all concrete block construction, which typically is more expensive than, say, like a wood frame or even tilt up construction or whatever other methods they're using to build elsewhere in the country. So, I think that's a key factor too.
And with the warm climate, wood frame, termites, there's all kinds of issues with that, hurricanes. So and I to an extent, I get the housing rules, the code rules, and the increase demands that they have. But on the other hand, maybe they've gotten a little extreme in some areas, which drives up the cost of housing. So
possibly. Down here, investing in South Florida is different, and I meet a lot of clients that are looking to duplicate their business model from other parts of the country here. Mm-hmm. They may relocate here, and they quickly realize that this South Florida market specifically, because that's where I spend all my time, or most of my time, is very different from a cost perspective. It's not the perceived super cheap Florida that once was, right?
No. That's gone here in South Florida. For now, at least. I don't know where it'll be in 2 years, but yeah.
And the competition here is very high. The population growth is very high here. So there's investors with a lot of cash still making investments into properties, even though we perceive maybe it's a little tough to make those deals make sense financially, right?
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. Other people might have different investment theses, and that's why they may buy here. For us, when we're looking for just cash flow, cash on cash returns, it typically isn't working here right now.
Not right now.
Yeah.
Not right now. I haven't seen a lot of great deals come across my email and my desk, but hope maybe that'll change, and I'm open to that. And again, if it doesn't change, then I think we need to look for a different part. I still love Florida for a variety of reasons. I still think there's tons of growth potential in Florida. I think the landlord-tenant laws here are excellent for landlords. You see so many different states that are putting in what I consider to be prohibitive and excessive tenant protection rules. There was eviction moratoriums up until recently in several states, New York and California, and landlords are moving out of there, and they're moving their money out of there, and they're bringing it to states like Florida, Tennessee, Georgia, Arizona, kind of those North Carolina, those Sun Belt states that have more favorable landlord rules. So I do see that. I really love Florida, and I think people who want to move their money to a great state that's business friendly, that's policies are pro landlord, pro business, less tax. It's Florida's the place to be. It may be South Florida, it may not be. You need to explore your options, and it's based on your investment goals. And that's going to be very different than someone who wants to live in a wonderful climate and have great activities. So we're talking about investors, but someone who maybe wants to live and buy a home, maybe South Florida is perfect for them because of the culture here and the great restaurants and everything else. But we're talking about apples and watermelons here with investment properties, because that's really just about dollars and cents. Whereas talking about primary properties or someone looking to come to Florida, they're talking about a lifestyle, which is very different.
Yes. And I would say some of the other factors that are driving an influx of cash to this area is the 1031 exchange mechanism, right? To your point earlier, you got people out of California and other parts of the country, New York, wherever, that are selling their properties, and sometimes they're using the 1031 exchange method, and they have a timeline in which they need to purchase something. So instead of pay the tax, they're willing to maybe pay up on properties where you and I are not using the 1031 exchange method because we're not selling our properties in most cases here. So we have a different investment plan.
We do.
Yep.
We absolutely do. And maybe they invested their money in New York City or in San Francisco 20 years ago, and they've seen incredible returns, and they're okay to move their money to South Florida, where their cap rates are relatively low, but when they compare to what their initial investment is, it's still great.
Yeah,
It makes sense.
It makes sense for them, which is fine.